I've always loved the idea of a death game. It's such an interesting idea for a plot and lends itself to intense and horrifying actions and consequences and a fearful inevitability that cannot be matched by many other plot structures. Yet I've never seen one that felt satisfactory. From The Hunger Games to Future Diary, they've always left me just disappointed and feeling like there were so many problems. And yes, I haven't seen Battle Royale yet. I know, I need to get to that soon. While I have a number of problems though with these death games I've seen, the biggest one is this: they're too predictable, and they don't really manage to make me care enough about most of the characters for the story to be worth my while despite this predictability. And Juni Taisen, Zodiac War, definitely does nothing to avoid predictability. In fact, Juni Taisen is meant to be predictable. After all, the order of deaths is based on the order of the Chinese zodiacs and the myth behind the Chinese zodiacs. The original light novel's author, Nisioisin, was never trying to be unpredictable, and the anime doesn't stray from that at all. And that's okay, but if a story is going to be completely predictable, if a death game is going to lack that tension of the unknown, it better have something else in its place. So let's talk about Juni Taisen Zodiac War's light novel and its anime adaptation, and see the differences between them, and whether either of them managed to create a story I could enjoy. Nisioisin's novel has a very specific structure that is followed throughout its entirety. There are battles, each of them with a winner and a loser. Before each battle, there is a brief biography of sorts provided for the character who is going to die, except for the rabbit. For the most part, these biographies serve to show us almost all of the backstory we are going to see for these characters, with the only truly notable exception being Tiger and perhaps Ox, whose relationship is developed because of a shared past experience that is described within the plot. The anime, however, takes these sections and, for many of the characters, creates backstories out of them, having that backstory occur within the episode wherein the character will die. This is by far the largest difference between the anime and the light novel, and it was an interesting choice to make as it completely alters the anime's focus. In the anime, these backstories are mostly made up of specific events that get across the point the light novel's character bio strive to, building a relatively specific narrative wherein we learn more about the character's past. This means that the anime becomes more of an episodic character study, with a death game as the overarching structure tying those character studies together, as opposed to a death game that has tagged on and brief summaries of character traits. In many ways, this is a very intelligent change, as the light novel fails in a number of respects just because of the way it handles its character development or lack thereof. In a death game that quickly becomes predictable, removing us from the characters only makes the events boring and bland. This problem with unidentified or at the least uninteresting characters is made even more problematic because so much of the novel consists of inner monologues, to the point where for the most part, there's very little description of setting or battles. Needless to say, this means that I didn't care much for the novel, and its largest saving grace was that it moved quickly and thus that it was over quickly, which meant that some of its strong moments, such as the interactions between Ox and Tiger, did stand out. But the anime has theoretically taken what I see as the best approach possible. The creators seem to say, let's take this character information and make something interesting. Let's make the audience care about these people and sit there knowing that they are going to die and just feeling distressed because they know it's going to happen but they don't want it to happen. But such a huge change in focus is ambitious and requires a large amount of new material. And the key here is that we need to care about these people, or at least hate them enough that we are excited to see them die. Without that element, without either really wanting them to live or really wanting them to die, this whole new focus does very little to improve the story. Unfortunately, this is the case with Juni Taisen's anime adaptation. The changes have been made, but the backstories are mostly just okay. I could go on about each individual one and explain why this is the case, but I think most people agree with this point. But I will say the biggest reason I think it's this way: the anime didn't stray far enough from its source material. Yeah, I know that's a pretty weird thing to say, but they needed to commit to this change, and they just didn't commit enough, as they pull so many of the characters' inner monologues from the light novel and use them as the characters' thoughts within the show. This means that often, we are being told instead of shown something, or that what we are seeing is being repeated to us in a way that is either so obvious that we don't need to hear it again, or something that we just don't really need to know, and thus takes away from the impact. Another major change made in the anime adaptation is that it includes the events of its sequel, which was written and published before the light novel. In this, we see Rat trying to decide what to use his wish on. Unfortunately, I can't find the sequel, so I can't really discuss how it was adapted. However, the very inclusion of these events is in and of itself a big change that we should discuss. In the light novel, we do not get to see Rat's wish, and as such, the end of the novel is anticlimactic and disappointing. In the anime, however, we do get to see his wish. So this might seem like a good thing. After all, that should fix the issue, shouldn't it? Unfortunately, I don't think that it does, because Rat's character has so lacked in character development up to this point, and his backstory is never covered in the anime. I had no emotional investment in his wish. He could choose anything and it wouldn't be expected or unexpected. We know next to nothing about him, and all we really learn in this final episode is that he hates people, which is one of the few things that we actually already knew about him because of his interactions with Monkey. So him finding it impossible to choose a wish and eventually just choosing to forget really didn't land. That's not to say that it couldn't have, it's actually a really interesting idea and it has a lot of potential to be interesting. But when he broke down and said that he just wanted to forget, I thought, oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that could be. I mean, he could be that sort of guy, I don't know. So in the end, I found Juni Taisen's light novel to be boring because of its necessary predictability and the way its structure and focus failed to complement that predictability. Meanwhile, I found the anime disappointing because it attempted to alter the structure and focus in a way that could possibly turn predictability into an interesting narrative tool, but failed because it didn't make me care about the characters. Thus, the show suffers from awkward pacing and a whole lot of anticlimactic experiences. Overall, I didn't enjoy either version of Juni Taisen, and I'd be really curious to hear what your opinions are down in the comments below. Either way, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I'll be making many more of these videos in the near future, on series like Fullmetal Alchemist, Land of the Lustrous, Violet Evergarden, and The Ancient Magus Bride. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.